Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be taking a look at the world of chip making.
It's a pretty fascinating world.
It is, and we're focusing on an article from Investor called The High-Speed Race of Chip Making, Inside AMD CEO Lisa Su's World.
Yeah, so this article is great, for anyone who wants to sort of understand how this tech race is playing out and, what the stakes are for all the players.
Right, it's a global story, and I think one of the most interesting things is just how quickly this industry
I
changes.
mean, it's constantly evolving.
The article even starts off with that really powerful analogy, chip making being like a race that never ends. The rules change every few years.
Yeah, that's spot on. And Lisa Su, AMD CEO, she really gets that.
She seems
I mean,
to.
she's lived it.
So how did she get to where she is now?
Well, she started out, as an electrical engineering student at MIT.
Okay, very
Uh,
technical background
yeah, then worked her way up through the ranks
of the tech industry.
to become the CEO of AMD.
Mm.
And when she took over, a lot of people had written off AMD. Their stock price was low.
So people were like, AMD is not going to make it.
Exactly. There was this feeling that they couldn't keep up with the big players like Intel.
So how did she turn things around?
Well, I think it's a combination of vision and just this incredible drive, this determination.
The article talks about her I like to win attitude.
Right. I mean, she's competitive.
She is. She saw that. She saw that AMD needed to innovate, needed to change course to survive.
And she had the technical expertise to know where to focus those efforts.
Like with the Zen architecture.
Yeah, that was a huge turning point for AMD.
Because it allowed them to really get back in the CPU game.
Exactly. Intel had been dominating that market for years, but their approach was hitting a limit.
So Intel's approach was kind of just keep adding more processing cores.
Yeah, and that wasn't always translating into better performance.
Okay, so it was reaching a point of diminishing return.
Exactly. And Sue saw that AMD could take a different approach.
What did they do?
They focus on improving the efficiency of each individual core.
Rather than just throwing more cores at the problem.
Right, and it worked. I mean, the Zen architecture delivered significant performance improvements and helped AMD gain market share back from Intel.
That's really impressive. It must have taken a lot of guts to go against the conventional wisdom like that.
It did, but that's what I think makes Lisa Su such an effective leader. She's not afraid to challenge the status quo.
To make those bold bets.
Exactly, and that's also evident in how she's positioned AMD in the AI revolution.
Right, and this is another area where AMD has really made its mark in recent years.
They've become a major player in both graphics processing units, or GPUs, which are essential for AI tasks, and specialized AI chips.
So can you break that down for us a little bit? What are these chips used for?
Well, think about all the AI applications we're seeing today.
Things like self-driving cars, facial recognition, virtual assistants.
All of that and more relies on powerful chips that can process massive amounts of data.
And AMD is making those chips.
They are, and they're doing it really well.
Okay, so give us an example. What kind of specific AI chips are they making?
One example is their MI300 chip.
That's the one that's designed to handle massive AI models like GPT-4, right?
Exactly. Those large language models are really pushing the boundaries of what AI can do.
And AMD is creating the hardware that's making it possible.
They are. They're at the forefront of this AI revolution.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. I mean, we're talking about technology that has the potential to transform our world in ways we can't even fully imagine yet.
And Lisa Su sees AI as even more transformative than the internet or mobile phones.
It's a bold statement.
It is, but when you see how rapidly AI is advancing, it's hard to disagree.
I mean, think about it. AI is already changing how we work.
How we communicate, how we shop, how we consume entertainment.
It's touching every aspect of our lives, and it's only going to become more pervasive in the years to come.
So the stakes are incredibly high in this race to develop the most powerful and efficient AI chips.
Absolutely, and AMD is going head-to-head with some of the biggest tech giants out there, like NVIDIA.
NVIDIA has long been the leader in the GPU market, so that's a tough competitor to take on.
It is, but AMD is up for the challenge, and they're bringing their own strengths to the table.
Like what?
Well, their focus on high-performance computing gives them an edge.
They're also known for their strong partnerships with other tech companies.
Yeah, they're working closely with companies and researchers who are developing cutting-edge AI applications.
So it's not just about building the chips, it's about being part of the ecosystem, the whole AI ecosystem.
Right. They understand that the future of AI is about collaboration, about bringing together the best minds and the most innovative technologies to solve the world's biggest challenges.
It sounds like they're taking a very holistic approach.
They are, and that's something that I think sets them apart in this increasingly competitive landscape.
And they're doing all of this while navigating the geopolitical tensions between the U.S. and China.
Right, that's a whole other layer of complexity.
We'll delve into that more in the next part of our deep dive. But it's clear that the chip-making industry is at the center of this global power struggle.
It's become a strategic imperative for nations around the world.
It's not just about economic dominance anymore. It's about national security.
Exactly. Control over the design, manufacturing, and distribution of chips has become a matter of national importance.
And that puts companies like AMD in a very delicate position.
They have to balance their business interests with the geopolitical realities.
And with their commitment to innovation and ethical leadership.
It's a lot to juggle, but I think Lisa Su is proving that it's possible to do all of those things.
To lead a company that's both technologically advanced and ethically responsible.
And to make a real difference in the world.
We'll explore all of those themes in more depth in the next part of our deep dive.
It's going to be a fascinating discussion.
I can't wait. Welcome back to our deep dive. Before we jump into all this geopolitical stuff, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier. About, AMD struggling in the mobile chip market before Lisa Su came in.
Right.
Can you kind of unpack that a little bit for us?
Yeah, sure. So basically, AMD, they were a bit late to the whole smartphone and tablet game.
They missed the boat.
Kinda, yeah. They were so focused on desktops and servers.
Big traditional markets.
Right, exactly. And I think they just didn't fully anticipate how huge mobile would become.
So they missed out on a massive opportunity.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, their competitors like Qualcomm and ARM,
Okay.
they were way quicker to adapt to the whole performance and power efficiency thing that mobile chicks need.
Right, because battery life is key for phones and tablets.
Exactly. And at the time, AMD's chips were known for their power, but
not so much for their efficiency.
yeah, not really. So that was a problem.
So when Lisa Su came in as CEO, how did she deal with that? Did she try to catch up in mobile?
She did try, but she also realized that, just copying what everyone else was doing wasn't going to work.
Right.
They needed to find their own niche.
So she shifted focus.
Yeah, towards high-performance computing.
Okay.
Things like gaming, data centers, AI, areas where power was more important than super low energy consumption.
And that seems to have worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah, it has. I mean, they're leading players in those markets now.
And it's funny because it seems like even in mobile now, that high-performance stuff is becoming more and more important.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, phones are so powerful these days. They can handle serious gaming and video editing and even AI stuff.
So the lines are kind of blurring between those traditional market segments.
They really are, yeah. And that's where AMD's strengths come in.
So it's like their focus on high performance has actually become an asset even in mobile.
In a way, yeah. I mean, they can use their expertise in things like graphics and AI to build chips that meet the needs of these super powerful phones.
It's like they were ahead of the curve in a way.
You could say that, yeah.
And I think that speaks to Lisa Su's leadership, her ability to kind of anticipate these industry shifts.
Totally. And I think her engineering background really helps her there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. She understands the tech at a deep level.
Right. So she could see how all these different areas like data centers and mobile, how they're all connected.
And that allows her to make these smart strategic decisions.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of strategic decisions, let's talk about this whole U.S.-China thing.
Oh, yeah, the geopolitical stuff.
Yeah, the article really dives into that, this tension between the U.S. and China over chip making.
It's a big deal.
So for someone who's not super familiar with all this, can you kind of break down why this rivalry is so intense?
Okay, so basically, chips are like the foundation of everything these days.
Right. They're in our phones, our computers, cars, everything.
Yeah, and even critical infrastructure, power grids, communication networks, it all runs on chips.
So whoever controls the chips controls a lot.
Exactly. And that's why this has become such a strategic issue for countries.
So it's not just about who can make the most money, it's about national security.
It's totally about national security.
Right. Wow, it's like a whole new kind of arms race. But instead of nukes, it's chips.
That's a good way to put it, and the stakes are incredibly high.
So what are the U.S. and China actually doing to try to win this race?
Well, the U.S. has passed that THAPS and Science Act,
Okay.
which is basically pumping billions of dollars into research and development and manufacturing.
Trying to boost the domestic chip industry?
Yeah, exactly. And they're also trying to get foreign chip makers to build factories here.
Okay, so kind of bringing the manufacturing back home.
Right. And they're also working with allies to make sure they have secure supply chains.
Smart.
What about China? They're taking a very different approach. They've been investing heavily in their own chip industry for a long time now.
Okay, so they're trying to become self-sufficient.
Yeah, they want to be able to make all the chips they need without relying on anyone else.
Ambitious.
It is. And they're putting a lot of money and resources behind it.
So they have these government-backed funds to support their chip makers.
And they have policies that encourage people to use Chinese-made chips.
Okay, so it's like a whole of government approach.
Yeah, exactly. They're really serious about this.
And where does AMD fit into all of this?
It's tricky, right?
Because they're a U.S. company, but they have global operations.
Exactly. They design their chips here in the U.S.
Okay.
But a lot of the manufacturing and assembly happens overseas, including in China.
So they're caught in the middle of this rivalry,
Kinda, yeah.
like walking a tightrope,
Yeah, I mean, they have to be very careful about how they navigate these relationships.
because they need to keep both the U.S. and China happy
Exactly. One wrong move could really mess things up.
for their business and their relationship with both governments.
It's a tough spot to be in.
It really highlights how interconnected everything is. You know, you've got technology and business and geopolitics all tangled up together.
Yeah, it's fascinating and kind of scary at the same time.
Definitely. But it's also really important to understand because it's shaping the future of everything.
For sure. And speaking of the future, we got to talk more about AI.
Right. The article emphasizes how Lisa Su sees AI as the next big wave in technology.
Yeah, even bigger than the internet or mobile phones.
And we talked a bit about that earlier, but I want to dive a little deeper.
Okay.
What are some of the specific advancements in AI that you're most excited about?
I mean, there's so much happening right now, it's hard to choose. But those large language models like GPT-4, they're pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, those things are incredible.
Like imagine chatbots that can actually hold a real conversation, write different kinds of creative content, even help you learn languages.
It's like having a personal assistant, a creative partner, and a language tutor all in one.
Exactly. And it's not just for consumers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this technology could revolutionize things like healthcare, education, scientific research.
Give me some examples. How could it impact healthcare specifically?
Well, AI could help analyze medical images, diagnose diseases more accurately, personalize treatment plans.
That could potentially save so many lives.
Absolutely. And it could also help researchers develop new drugs and therapies faster.
Okay, and what about education? How could AI change things there?
Imagine personalized learning experiences that adapt to each student's needs.
Okay.
It could provide real-time feedback and support, help students master tough concepts, and even automate some of the more tedious tasks for teachers.
So teachers could spend more time actually teaching and connecting with their students.
Exactly.
It's amazing to think about the potential here.
It is, and these are just a few examples. The possibilities are really limitless.
But with all this talk about AI's potential, we also have to think about the potential downsides.
Oh, absolutely. We can't ignore the ethical implications.
Right. Like, what are some of the key ethical considerations that we need to be thinking about?
One of the biggest ones is bias. You know, AI systems are trained on data. And if that data is biased...
The AI will be biased too.
Exactly.
So, for example, if an AI system is trained on data that mostly reflects the experiences of white men, it might not be fair to women or people of color.
Right, and that can have real consequences in areas like hiring, lending, criminal justice.
It's scary to think about.
It is, and that's why it's so important to address these biases.
Both in the data and the algorithms themselves.
Yeah, we need to make sure that AI systems are fair and equitable for everyone.
And what about privacy? That's another big concern with AI, right?
It is, because AI relies on collecting and analyzing tons of data, including personal data.
So we need to be careful about how that data is used and protected.
Exactly.
It's like we want the benefits of AI, but we don't want to give up our privacy.
Well, it's a tough balance to strike.
And it's a conversation that we need to be having as a society.
Definitely. We need clear guidelines and regulations for how AI is developed and used.
To make sure it respects our rights and values.
Exactly.
It's a lot to consider.
Yeah, AI is such a powerful technology. We need to be really thoughtful about how we use it.
It can't just be about the tech. It has to be about the human impact as well.
Absolutely.
And that brings us back to Lisa Su and AMD.
How so?
Well, their story is not just about building chips. It's about making choices that affect the world. Their decisions about what to develop, how to use their resources, how to work with governments, all of that will shape the future of AI.
For sure.
So they have a huge responsibility.
They do, and so do all of us.
In a way, yeah, because the future of AI isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create together
I like that.
through the choices we make every day.
It's a powerful reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping this technological revolution.
And that's what makes this deep dive so important. It's not just about understanding the tech,
It's about understanding the bigger picture.
the human story behind it.
Exactly.
You know, it's really fascinating to think about these tiny little chips, how they're not just like powering our devices, but actually shaping the whole world.
And like we've been talking about, it's not just about the tech itself, it's about the people behind it.
Yeah, Lisa Su, the engineers, all of us trying to figure out what all this means.
It really is a human story.
And I think that brings us to the heart of this whole deep dive, right? Trying to understand this world where technology is changing so fast.
Yeah, how do we even keep up?
And it's not just about knowing like how AI works or what the latest chips can do. It's about asking those bigger questions.
Yeah, the so what questions.
Exactly. So what does all this mean for us, for the world?
I think for me, the biggest so what question from this article is about control. Who's actually in control of all this AI stuff?
Is it governments,
Yeah.
companies, individual?
Right, and how do we make sure this incredibly powerful technology is used for good?
Yeah, the article talks about that rivalry between the US and China,
Yeah.
but it also hints at how companies like AMD have a role to play in all this.
Yeah, they're not just building the hardware.
They're making choices about, which applications to focus on, who they partner with, what their ethical guidelines are.
So they're kind of shaping the future of AI, not just through the chips themselves, but also through how they do business.
And those decisions have a ripple effect, right?
Totally.
Like think about the impact of AI on jobs, for example.
Yeah, that's a big one. A lot of people are worried about AI taking away jobs.
And it's a valid concern.
It is. So companies like AMD need to think about that. How can they develop AI in a way that creates new opportunities instead of just eliminating jobs?
It's tricky.
Yeah. But it's also a chance to rethink how we work, what the future of work looks like.
And it's not something that one company can solve on its own.
Definitely, it requires governments, businesses, schools, everyone working together.
And the article doesn't really offer any easy solutions, but I do think it gives us some insight into how Lisa Su approaches these challenges.
And she seems to be all about collaboration, innovation, and being willing to adapt.
And those are definitely qualities that are going to be essential in the age of AI.
For sure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think I'm left feeling both excited and a little bit cautious.
Yeah, I get that.
Excited about what AI could do, solving problems, making things better, but also cautious about making sure we do it right.
Yeah, ethically and responsibly.
Because the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something we're all creating together
Through the choices we make,
through the conversations we have.
through the actions we take.
And I think that's what I hope people take away from this, this idea that we're not just passive consumers of technology.
We can shape it.
We can shape it, and we should.
We have a responsibility to.
So thanks again for being here and guiding us through this. It's been really enlightening.
My pleasure. Always fun to talk about this stuff.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new and maybe even got inspired to keep exploring this incredible world of technology.